Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Dr. Dom.
And I'm DocJen.
And we're coming at you with a PT Pearl on back pain with some specific tidbits on back spasm. So stick around. So back pain is something that's super popular, and we really want to dive into it because so many people experience it. I've had my own issues with back pain. We've interviewed a lot of clinicians on our podcast that have had issues with back pain and recurring back pain. So we want to really dive into what it might mean when we have these back spasms. Why is our back doing that? And how can we just start to explore into that a little bit?
Yeah, and especially when we have that experience of back pain and that symptom of your body going oh my God, and it's tightening up really bad in the back and you're getting that spasm response. The first thing that we want to do anytime that we get injured is we want to touch it. We want to grab it. We want to, exactly. Yeah. Or even if I bump into something, right? If I bump my elbow, the first thing I do, grab it.
Or rub it. Or something like that.
And what that actually does, it is literally a response within our brain that helps to decrease that pain, that initial pain response. So it is great to have that touch and it will help for that moment. But what we want to start to get away from is the need to smash.
Yeah.
Especially when we have that experience of that initial back pain and that spasm. And all we want to do is take a hammer and just rub it out of me, or take something and beat it out of me, and we want to explain why that's probably not going to be the most effective for your body, especially in that initial symptom of back spasm, and what you can do and what tools you can use rather than that.
But really, when we're having those back spasms, there's a lot of tension in that muscle already. And it's really on guard and it's really sympathetically driven. We want to hold our ears or our shoulders into our ears, hold our breath and tighten up to just bear against it. So something that we initially want to talk about is just that down regulation of the system as a whole, which is then going to help down regulate some of the messages and signals we're sending into those back muscles. So we talk a little bit about down regulation in the breathwork episode. So we're going to touch on some of those principles again, which brings us around to one of the things we always talk about, which is breathing, and how just laying on our back, if we're laying down on our back is resting on something, giving some of that touch and that safety and that thing that's going to mechanically gate that process you just kind of explained earlier for our brain to perceive, oh, there's something supporting my back, there's something underneath my back. And then we dive into some breath to support through the core and also send some different signals to the back muscles to down regulate.
Yeah, so when we're talking about down regulation, especially when we're talking about that nervous system, we have two options. Your back is already going into that, what he touched on, which is the sympathetic, that fight, flight, freeze response. Someone scares you, what do? You take a deep inhale and your body comes in tight to you, because what it's doing is it's guarding you, especially when your hands come and they kind of come in front of the chest. It's protecting your heart, your organs, the vital part of your body. Your body naturally has that instinct, which is cool. Yeah. And so that's why I like to first say, when your body is having that reaction of a spasm, cool. Your body knows how to naturally protect you. And that's where we get to say, thank you, pain, for alerting me. Thank you, body, for coming into that natural reaction of protection. One of the things that it reminds me of, honestly, my grandma was having extremely bad back pain and really bad back spasms right before she got diagnosed with cancer. And it was that the cancer had already spread to her bones and it was responding in a muscular sense. And every time she went to PT, it was oh, you're old. And it was painful for me. I was not yet in physical therapy school. She wasn't getting better because it was deeper and her body was trying to talk to her. And so again, thank you, body, for giving me this response. And it was her response to alert her. She went to the hospital at 3 a.m. one night because it was just so incredibly bad that she couldn't stand it anymore. And she's like, I've been through PT, I've been through all these things and it's not helping. Finally, got more testing, found out that she had lung cancer. And that's where I say, thank you, body, for giving me this response, for telling me when you're alerting me that something is happening. And so rather than fighting it and going more into that sympathetic, how can I actually have that appreciation, downregulate, talk to the vagus nerve that increases and promotes that relaxation and get those muscles to turn off.
And, I mentioned laying on your back. That's a great way to, make that back feel safe. Some people will be like, oh, it happens at work. I can't get laying on my back. Find a wall to kind of lean your back into and do some nice deep breathing up against the wall, because kind of the same, principle with that back resting against the wall. It just gives you something that you can feel safe to, rest into and support your back to down regulate. So then say we get down regulated a little bit, then what do? We kind of explore like, oh, why have these spasms been coming on? One thing that we do initially to assess in a clinic is we just get people to move in different directions, into flexion or bending forward and rounding that back forward, or into extension and, kind of arching that back backwards. And that can give us a lot of information on, one, where we tend to hold that back or where our own biases might be. And two, we might get some relief by moving that back into these different positions.
But we're saying when you find those initial symptoms of what helps to relieve that pain initially, do more of that. Don't do what continues to hurt you. And so for a lot of people, that's where, oh, I have back pain, do core. And for some people, yes, but not always. It's not always like, oh, I'm lacking stability, I need to gain stability. And remember, when we talk about core again, it's all the way from the pelvic floor to what's happening at the diaphragm as you breathe and what's happening all the way around the back. And that's why, again, when we go into the optimal body, we teach from level 1 to level 4, because it is not just like, oh, do these crunches and do these ab exercises, but it's actually learn how to really use your entire trunk from your shoulder blades all the way down to your pelvic floor so that it can support your back.
The core, or the low back, where we might be having these symptoms, its most immediate neighbors are the upper back, or the thoracic spine, and the hips. And if we have restriction in the movement in these areas, then our back is going to need to find that movement. So that's where we might be moving too much in the back because we're not moving enough or as efficiently or as well in some of these other areas, which is also something that I've had issues with at my hips. My hips don't like to rotate super well in certain areas. My hips don't like to extend very well. I mean, it's getting a lot better because I've been putting consistent work at it. Same with my upper back.
And that's where I say it's always so important to self-assess rather than guess. And if you're not going to self-assess, go get assessed by a professional.
You should put that on a bumper sticker or something.
I know, right? We need shirts that just say self-assess, don't guess. But it's really important to understand your body and start to bring awareness into your body. And that's what we as clinicians, we do for you. We help to bring that assessment to you, that awareness to you, so that then we know how we're guiding you into your body and how you're moving into your body. And that's why in the mobility method, there's a 23 movement screen so that you get to self-assess where your body is moving from head to toe, literally. And then you can say, okay, this is restricted. This is obviously not quote unquote normal as it should be. And here are some of the exercises that I can start adding in. And it's exactly like Dom said, as long as we start consistently adding little things in every single day, that's what's going to make the biggest difference, especially when we're talking about back pain. Because there's no one exercise, there's no one fix. It is what it works for your individual body based on your assessment of your body and based on your own restrictions or weaknesses or inefficiencies in your patterns and in your movement. And when you start to just say, I'm going to do this one in the morning, I'm going to do this one before I work out, I'm going to do this one before I go to bed, and you stick to 1 to 4 little tiny things every single day, it makes a huge difference in the longevity and support of your body in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we'll work with people in the clinic all the time, and they'll say, no, I tried those exercises. They didn't work.
Yeah.
And this is our second appointment seeing them. Or we saw them 2 or 3 days ago, and they're like, I tried those. They didn't work. My first question is, how long have you been having this back pain? Or how long have you been having these symptoms? Or you're 50 years old, you've been moving a certain way for 50 years. And we kind of build these biases and these habits in our body. So my message to people is if you're not willing to commit that 10 minutes to yourself a few times a day, or say that you don't have time, then you're going to need to be okay with the pain, and then you're going to need to be okay with that journey of having pain for the rest of your life, because If you're not willing to commit to the consistency to change it, okay, you might need to do this every day for 6 months to have any really noticeable, significant change in that pain when you wake up in the morning, like, oh man, that pain's a lot less now. There might be some people out there saying, well, you know, I do get these massages or I do get these things and they make me feel better. And that's okay. We're not saying that you should never ever have soft tissue work. You should never have a massage. You should never use. That's not what we're trying to say. We're just saying that those things can do similar things for a lot of people to help downregulate that system, to help put that nervous system in a little bit of a different place. It's not a long-term fix.
No.
If you've noticed, if you do those things and then go without it for another month, and you say, oh, I'm kind of falling back to where I was before because we haven't changed anything else. So that's where our message in this PT Pearl is that you have the ability to get that down regulation on your own.
Yeah.
And then you also have the ability to explore, find the underlying reasons it happened in the first place and address those. All right, so there's our PT Pearl on back pain and back spasm. Hope you really enjoyed it. Please subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you might have loved. Let us know what you want to learn because we need topics from you guys so we know what you want us to make these videos about in the future.